is our good friend Sydart. Welcome to Bitcoin Live.
Hi, happy to be here.
Well, this is the final show of today, and it's a very special show. We're going to talk about Bitcoin and crypto, of course. That's where we're going to start. But we're also going to discuss a topic dear to my heart, and I think also to your heart, which is UAPs.
Yeah.
But before we do that, let's start at the beginning. Markets, because a lot of people are also curious about that. What is your general impression of the market at the moment, and where do you see it go? Of course, this is not investment advice for everybody listening, but
Yeah. So my idea is, in July and August, usually you get a pullback. Basically, the pull start from May and it lasts until the end of August, and then it's ready to shoot up, and then in October, it will go up a lot.
so do you don't see anything unusual about this whole bear? We're basically in a bull market, of course, but it often feels like a bear market.
I don't think we are in bull market yet. I think this is the end of the bear market.
Okay,
This is my idea because we were in bear market since 2022.
true.
Yeah, and then it went. I think it touched 15,000, and from there, now we are starting to rise up. So now it's like the start of. I think it's a stable period right now, and then bull market will start, and that I think that is either 2024 or 2025, which where we'll see new all-time high.
Okay, yeah, I meant with the bull market that you have this sort of consolidation phase
Yeah,
before it really starts off, and the consolidation phase is almost finished. So
yeah,
that's sort of what I meant with, the start of the bull market. That
yeah.
we're basically in it already, but
Yeah, no, we are already in there. So bear market is ended. So your consolidation period we are having right now, and then hopefully from October we'll see a big rise until 2024 April, and May we will have a big pullback, and then I think October 2024 is going to be a big one from October 2024.
okay, then I have one more question. I'm sure you're also very aware of the sort of macro condition, the economy as a whole. I'm,
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of Eurodollar University with Jeff Snyder, but there's many good channels out there.
Yeah,
And basically, what they're saying is that that the real economy is very sick.
yeah,
So do you think? And basically, we're on the breaking point because these businesses are doing labor hoarding, and
yeah,
they've been sort of hoarding these people in order for the hope that there would be like a rebound in the second part of the year, which is not going to happen. And it turns out that they're also, screwing with the statistics, as you well know. So aren't you afraid that, that there might actually be a big drop in the market?
No, actually, so if you talk about traditional finances, they are going in a bad place. Especially you right now, everything rely on US dollar. But after the launch of BRICS and the way they are doing their stuff, I think the power of US dollar will go down. It's not going to zero, but it won't be the same as it is there for like last 20, 30 years. So we will see the drop in US dollar, which will be good for crypto people because if the US dollar is going down, people will realize and then they will start to invest more in crypto. And that's why BlackRock and Vanguard and all other big companies are adding cryptos in their portfolio. So what I see is like big future for crypto, but not good for rest of the people.
So you're expecting a big drop in the regular markets, the traditional markets, but you think Bitcoin is about to decouple.
Yeah, but not a big drop. It will be a gradual slow drop
Hmm. Okay. And
because
are there? Oh, go on.
because like BRICS cannot like directly challenge US because that will start like a war.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're very smart people, like China, Russia, India. So play their they're gonna play a long game, and they're gonna play right cards. So you won't see a big drop, but you'll see a gradual slow drop.
A grind. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree, and that actually also ties into the UFO UAP story that we're going to talk about. But just to come back a little bit, because you're not expecting like a flash crash as soon as sort of these when the jobs are, because basically bankruptcies and people losing their jobs is, I think, very likely, right, in the short term.
Yeah. No, it is, but it also depends on the countries, right? So depends which country you're in. Big corporation. This is not going to happen right now. I think this will happen after like after AI will take over, and then that's a whole topic I think we need to discuss. We never talk about that, but I think AI is the real danger, which will replace every job. And I understand, like, even I work for a company, right, and I do their creative work, but now they are more inclined towards AI. Like, for example, I take product photos, so they and AI is generating some good product photos. They are not perfect, but what I
Yes.
see that in a year or two, they will be doing really like exact photos what and like a company wants. So then it will start to replace jobs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that big drop will come not right away, and it will come like in a year or two, but not because of the economy. It will be because of the AI.
Yeah, there's major shifts going on. So we're gonna also, it's all tied together. So that's basically why we're doing this show in the first place,
Mhm.
at least in my opinion. But before we move on, are there any cryptos out there that you have your eye on?
Yeah. So right now, big eye on Shiba Inu because they're launching their blockchain. It's almost done. Any day, not any day, but like within a month or two, you will have their blockchain launch. Not just Shiba Inu, but their Bone coin, which is going to be their gas token. So I am expecting a big rise on Bone token.
Do you think that also lead to another run in not altcoins but meme coins?
Yeah, for meme coin, I think meme coins are already doing well. So even the crazy coin launched like PNDX Pandex is
Yeah,
by this guy. You know about this guy, right?
yeah,
Just don't want to name him. Anyway, he's like a very big grifter. He launched a coin. Initially, it's dropped, but now it's like 200% up or 400% up, something like that. So, and then Pepe is doing well for some reason. I don't know the. I own Pepe. I don't
yeah.
know what's the point of it. It's just fun meme.
Yeah.
And then
So,
all
but
other.
it's basically Shiba Inu and Bitcoin, and I imagine you have some Ethereum.
No. I have like a lot, like XRP as well, because I see a good future for XRP.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I
so
thought.
yeah, XRP.
Yeah,
So all the main Ethereum always gonna stay because the whole crypto industry is standing on the shoulders of Ethereum, not of Bitcoin, because
true.
most of the people who do transactions are doing transactions on Ethereum. Most of the apps are in Ethereum, so Ethereum will all like continue to rise up for a very long time.
Yeah, I imagine Ethereum is. I'm not a big fan anymore of Ethereum as I once was,
Yeah,
but yeah, you're right. Like it's such a foundational
yeah.
yeah, blockchain, right?
The only thing I don't like is like high gas prices of Ethereum. Otherwise, Ethereum blockchain is perfect. Just gas price is too high that you don't want to do any transaction on it. Other than that, everything is perfect.
Okay, well, let's transition into our real discussion
Yeah,
because that's what it's all about. So we had this. Well, we actually had a couple of things. Like it started off with David Grush and his what was it, News Nation interview. I got it over a year
yeah,
that he did, and that set off the stage for the hearings, congressional hearings that were done, I think last week, was it right? Time flies.
2 weeks ago. I don't know. Yeah, time flies so fast here.
Let's see, I think I got it here somewhere. Well, anyway, so what do you make about that, of that?
So about that interview, I am a very old like I'm in UFO field from a very long time. I never believed anyone, but it's just so interesting to listen. So back in the days when I started like doing research in 2011 or something or 2010, but then I was going through the old videos, and then at that time I found Stephen Greer. You know
Right.
Dr. Stephen Greer.
Yes.
I never until now I never trusted him, but it was fun to
Same.
listen. So he did a disclosure project where he brought so many ex-military guys, and they all gave their testimony. Everybody made fun of them,
Yeah.
yeah. And I never trusted it, but they were there. And then what David Grush was saying is like a light version of what they disclosed at that time. So all this information was like I already knew what David Grush was saying. Like I have heard of these things. The real question mark, like not the question mark, the surprising thing was when these senators hear his not just the testimony, like the Congress testimony, but before that, they already tried to contact those Air Force bases, and the general of that base denied the access to these, uh, like these senators or like the Congress people, like lawmakers, which is surprising because I don't think they have authority to deny the public representative, and they didn't even give them access. So that's the most surprising thing for me regarding this whole fiasco. That okay, if they don't allow them, it means there's something really going on. So all the suspicion people are having, where is the proof? I think proof is just right there that Air Force General denied US lawmakers, which are voted by the government, which is, well, it should be the real government, but we realize they are not the real government. They're just like the people on the front. Someone else behind the scene is running the actual government who can deny access to these lawmakers.
Yeah, because basically you need a special access project clearance, the SEPs, and
Yeah, but
um, and a lot of people, even some presidents, actually most presidents, don't have that clearance, right? So
I don't think anybody have any president because, like, look, let's just talk about Trump when he was in the in the office. I don't think these generals gonna trust him and gonna give him the access because they know if they tell him, he will say something to the public, which is his charisma. That like he have no filters. He just say whatever he want to say. And I don't think anybody trusts Joe Biden because his brain is not right there. So they're not going to tell him. So I understand that they are not telling the president, which is one thing, but it's like telling him without he's asking is one thing. But like when Congress or Senate ask the government, like the Air Force Base, it is their job to reply because they approve their budget. It's our money, it's our tax dollar, and these lawmakers are representative of that, and they passes the bill. So it is the job of the general to give answers to their questions, or at least let them visit and explain where this money is going. And they didn't let them in. They didn't even let them in. They denied. And
yeah,
one more thing is the public hearing they allowed, and then behind the door of the skim, they didn't allow that because we're because David Grish can say something publicly, but there are a lot of the things which he cannot say it publicly because I think it's in his contract. They are classified things he cannot.
true.
Yeah, so they didn't allow a private meeting, and that's why he wasn't able to give them exact location. I think he gave them anyway because I think even if there was no official behind the door, like closed door meeting, still I think they have contact, so he might have given them their actual information. But the point is, like, the Pentagon didn't allow
Yeah,
these guys to have that meeting.
and
This
that's
is a big question mark.
did this interview with Tim Burchett. I think it was on. Well, this one was on VVLT News, but I think he did a lot of these interviews. But this is one of those interviews where he mentions what you're referring to, that basically their access was blocked,
Yeah.
and that they couldn't get what they asked for, which is very unusual. And when you sort of dive into this topic, you discover quite quickly that a lot of people are sort of blocked from having access to information about these topics. And David Grush was, of course, his job was actually to brief the president on these issues and do research into this topic and to talk with the people involved with the project. And basically, in these hearings, in the congressional hearings, he said that Roswell happened.
Yeah.
So so basically there was like a cover up for 80 years and a ridicule of the American.
No, actually, yeah, Roswell. But he said one thing, that they started in 1930s, which is like 20 years before Roswell.
True.
Which was surprising because most of us, like everyone in the UFO community who's not like deep in the rabbit hole, but like general public, thinks that all this shit started after Roswell, when the first ship crashed. But like saying 1930, there was another crash which they recovered, which is amazing. But I understand, because like if you read about World War II, there were Foo Fighters. I don't know if people knows about it, but that's back in the days when two armies of like German army versus British army were fighting. They saw UFOs, so they didn't even have the name of UFOs. They called it Foo Fighters because they were. And then even during the war, they combined the force and they fought together with Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
So there was a battle going on, and the Foo Fighters was a thing. And then I think but the war was so terrible that I think they didn't care about it. And then they were back into killing each other. And then in 1947, the Roswell happened, and that's when the US picked up the whole thing.
Yeah, and that was, of course, also the year that the CIA was established, and the US Air Force.
Yeah.
And the Air Force is, of course, the one who sort of takes precedent over most of these issues, and has been caught lying multiple times about Roswell, right? Because they had to retract their story 4 times, if I believe.
Yeah, 4 times. The first time they tell the truth, I think they were telling that, yeah, we found the crashed UFO. It was in the newspaper, so it's not even the speculation. They said they crashed, they found a crashed UFO and probably the alien. And then the next day, I think they made fun of it.
Yeah.
And then later on, they come up with this balloon story.
Yeah, and they even mentioned...
First they come up with that test pilot thing, right? They come up with like a test flight, and then they come up with a weather balloon, and now I don't know what's going on.
Well, they've been called many times, and at some point they even said that that were not aliens that the witnesses saw, but crash test dummies that they threw out of planes, and it turned out that they weren't even invented yet.
Exactly.
So they had to retract that one.
Yeah.
But then basically you had Project Blue Book. And Project Blue Book is, of course, was a really big research done. Also, I think at the instigation of the U.S. Congress, but I'm not sure about that. But at least it was a real big research with Jacques Vallée and many others who worked on
Majestic 12. That was the main thing. So there was like this group called Majestic 12. It was like US approved, like UFO research committee of grade 12, grade 2. I don't know the name of those people, but they were in charge of that department. They did it for a long time. They created their report, and surprisingly, they were shut down. And I don't think they were shut down. They just moved to the next level, of security, or maybe they were I think now the black budget of the U.S. Congress goes to those people. This is going on very massively right now. People don't know. And then come back to Project Blue Book. Yeah, Blue Book thing is Blue Book. If I'm not wrong, is the same thing, right? Where they're going to fake the invasion.
No. Project Blue Book was like a real investigation of the phenomenon. I think done on behalf of the U.S. government, because there were so many sightings, right? There were like thousands upon thousands of sightings.
Yeah, I'm missing something else. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
So and
another thing. Yes. Anyway,
so sort of like it was Move On before Move On existed, and sort of Move On took over where they left off. But the point is, at sort of the height of that, when they wrapped up Project Blue Book, they wrote a conclusion to it, and it turned out that the conclusion was the opposite of like all the research that they did. Like sort of the conclusion after they did all the research and compiled all the evidence. The conclusion said like, oh, there's nothing to it. This is our conclusion from doing this research. And then when you go through the research that they did, actually everything points to the fact that there was something there. So they sort of fabricated this conclusion, which didn't add up, like didn't actually represent the evidence that they compiled. So that was another sort of way to get rid of this story. And from that moment onward, they started ridiculing the whole UFO phenomenon, because they did the Project Blue Book and the conclusion was there's nothing there, so move on, people. And what another interesting thing that people might not know is about the X-Files, right? Because when I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, like the X-Files were like the big thing from Chris Carter. I loved them, and that's sort of where my love for it came from. But I always thought there was nothing to it, right? So I thought it was just entertainment. But it turned out that Chris Carter did his X-Files based on hearings that he did with people who were abducted. So he had these abductee sessions going on in the US. And because he needed information for a show to talk about, that he sort of sit in with these abductees and listen to their stories. And that's where the X-Files originated. So it was art imitating life, because many people say that life imitates art, right? So you have the X-Files and then people see UFOs, but it was actually the other way around.
Also, like speaking of abductees, there are like verified cases of abduction. So we have like the famous of Barney and Betty Hill case, which is like amazing case out there. And then there is this another guy who was a lumberjack. I forgot his name. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast too. He explained his whole story. So, and then there was a movie based on him as well. So abduction cases are going on, and I understand like people can be abducted. If I am an alien visiting a different planet and I want to study, I probably abduct someone from the corner and just do experiment. Maybe just do a scan, non-invasive scan, just to see what are they made of. So it is possible.
Yeah, and of course you have to really. I mean, we'll link all the stuff down below in the video. So for people, this will be sort of a primer video for people new to the subject, and they think like that's bogus or it's full of crap and shenanigans and scams. That's also there, right? I mean, when you sort of go down the rabbit hole, there's a lot of.
Most of them are fake
fraudsters, and they're trying to sell their book or whatever. But there's also like a ton of anecdotal and circumstantial evidence which points. I mean, there's so incredibly amount of evidence.
I think it's not even anecdotal anymore, because a lot of, like for example, Commander David Fravell thing. We have video of it, so it is not an anecdotal evidence. It's like everyone can see it. It's like a verifiable thing. Pentagon verified it as well, that it is something is there. We don't know what it is.
True,
so
and
it's there.
I can highly recommend this book for people to start reading if you want to know more about the topic. I have to get it into the camera.
Yeah, I can't see it.
It's invisible. Okay, I have to put it in front of my head.
Face.
It is UFO, and then it's called Generals, Pilots, and Government Officials Go on the Record by Leslie Kane. And she has been also doing a lot of research in this area, and basically she compiled this book with the most striking cases, like the Phoenix Lights is a very famous example.
Phoenix Light is like amazing.
Yeah, that's really incredible. So there was like this gigantic UFO that flew over Phoenix, hence the lights, and it was black with some big lights on it, and it was the size of like 8 football fields. It was huge, well, really huge.
It was huge, yeah.
And it glided over the city in stealth mode, and basically the city saw the UFO.
Yeah,
And
whole
then,
city saw it. Whole city is witness of it.
yeah. So everybody saw it, and then people asked around, like, is there some kind of military exercise going on? What the hell is happening? So they called the airfield, the nearest airfield base, and then they said, no, we got nothing going on there. And then the military sent planes to fire flares in the air, and then later on they said, like, it was just the flares.
Just flares, yeah.
But
the next day they did, like, in the press conference, they brought a man wearing a costume. Did you see that? That was like they tried to make fun of it.
True. But there's more to that story. So the governor invited this person, like, oh, we got the cool culprit, and then they invited this person dressed up as an alien.
Yeah.
But later, that same governor, like a few years later, after he wasn't governor anymore, he came back to the story and he said, like, I saw the UFO too, but I had to do that in order to sort of de-stress the situation, because people were sort of in a panic mode, and he had to sort of take away the panic, and that's why he did it. But he sort of came on the record to say, like, no, it was true. I saw it too, and it was the size of a couple of football fields. But I had to do that in order to prevent the panic. So anyway, this book is full of these cases. Like, you also had this, maybe you also know it, like in Iran, the Tehran case, where a pilot sort of had an interaction with the UFO.
Yeah, and it happened also very recently. I saw because I have some friends from Iran. They just told me that Iranian military had like a small battle with UFO. There was a video out of it too. It just happened, I think, last week.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, that sounds very familiar to that case. And you had the Japanese airliner, and you got Rendlesham Forest in the UK. And then you had like tons of government officials that have gone on the record, like a famous Canadian Minister of Defense.
Minister, yeah. He was very famous for that. The Israeli guy.
Yeah.
He was very famous. He was like talking about Galactic Federation and stuff.
Yeah. So basically, we'll link, and then you got Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, there even a show on it, right? I mean, I find that very comical, because what better way to sort of introduce the reality of the existence of this stuff to the American public by way of a reality show.
Yeah.
Like the highest.
What is more surprising? People are not interested in that.
Yeah.
Other than UFO people, nobody cares. But this is really big, which can change the future of humanity.
Yeah.
Whatever this UFO phenomenon is, it's like humanity is at stake right now. We don't know what it is.
True. Yeah, because basically the Skinwalker Ranch is like a ranch in the Utah Basin. And people have speculated that the Utah Basin is basically some kind of gigantic meteor impact might have happened there, because the soil is like a very special kind of soil. And also the shape of the area.
With this Skinwalker Ranch, there is more than just UFO thing. It's like the experiences which I have read about the Skinwalker Ranch is more like haunted. It's not just UFO thing, because a lot of people felt dark energy over there. True. Or like poltergeist stuff. So I think there is more than UFO thing going on.
Yeah, and about the Skinwalker Ranch, I mean, it's not just the Skinwalker Ranch, but actually basically the whole Utah Basin has the same. It's just sort of concentrated in that area specifically. But the US government did research there. Robert Bigelow did research there. Right, Robert Bigelow has the NITS Institute. which is what is it? The National Institute for Discovery Science. He has done a lot to sort of advance this topic. And now it's taken over by a big real estate investor, which he sort of allowed to turn into a show, which up till then was, very secretive location, of course.
Now it comes to another question. There are like multiple things going on at the same time. It's not just like alien from different planet. There is also a possibility that there is another dimension around us, and these aliens are not all of them, but some of these cases are from interdimensional aliens.
Yeah. So that is one of the sort of things that they have discovered because of all the anomalies around Skinwalker Ranch. That there might, and there's other people who have come forward too, who said like, this might be actually an interdimensional thing.
And if you want to dig more on that, like all religions, especially Abrahamic, not even Abrahamic, I know that same thing, like, for example, in Abrahamic religion, we have demons or jinns and things like that. In Hinduism, we also have the same thing. Buddhism also, like, they all talk about interdimensional beings. So it is possible that multiple things going on at the same time, where some places like Utah, where there was a meteor impact, created some anomaly in the in our Earth, where there was like a minor dimensional breach, and things can communicate more. So that's why the weird events happening in Utah, because of that meteor, something happened, and there was like a minor breach or something.
Yeah,
And then
and
you
it
see,
might even be something else than a meteor, right? I mean, they're sort of suggesting that's a meteor, but who knows what like
exactly.
buried there, right? So
Yeah.
definitely check out Skinwalker Ranch. I'll also put a link down below for that, because that's, I think, a very interesting phenomenon what's happening there. But you also have like the aerial phenomenon in South Africa, where like tens or 20 students, children, young children, were interacted with aliens. And John Mack.
And they all have the same story, because if kids are making up, like one kid make up the story, but when the group of kids telling the same story, it means there is something to it.
True. And John Mack, like was a very famous psychologist, Nobel laureate, famous psychologist, who later on in his career sort of devoted his time to abductees and these kind of things. And then he became ridiculed, even though they loved him before that time.
He got ridiculed because he used some woo methods like hypnotherapy and stuff, and people are not the fan of it. That's why.
But basically, Well, that's true. I mean, that's true. But basically, of course, once you go into this topic, they find whatever they can use against you in order to take you down, right? But he was the one who interviewed. No, not the only one. There were lots of people. Even the BBC crew talked to these children, and a lot of these children actually later on, now they're grown up, corroborated the story that they told back then, and sort of like that it was the most influential experience in their lifetime and changed their lives completely.
But now, speaking of these people, I think the best person, if anybody listening wanna do do a very skeptic research, is like Jeremy Corbell.
Oh yeah,
he's the main guy. He do the right investigation. He's not like a crazy UFO guy. He's like trying to find the truth. He's the one who introduced Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
And the story of Bob Lazar I think it's still my favorite story, because his details are and his story is so perfect, and he's not after money, because most of the people try to write a book and try to sell money. In the case of Bob Lazar is totally different. He lost everything.
True, but basically they also took down Bob Lazar, right, by sort of saying that his credentials weren't what he claimed they were.
They removed his records. He had a degree from MIT, and they got rid of it. The
Yeah.
Bob Lazar case is very interesting, and people should go and like watch his two things. Like he have a documentary with Jeremy Corbell. Watch that, and then Joe Rogan podcast with Bob Lazar. These two things, like you will get the whole story of what Bob Lazar had to go through, and I
And
think whatever, because CIA is involved in that for sure, and if not CIA, some secret agency which is doing like the black ops right now to cover up the whole UFO situation.
yeah, I completely agree with you. And it's definitely basically David Grush is um, corroborating everything that Bob Lazar claimed, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
it's exactly what he said, because it's sort of they're trying to reverse engineer crashed UFOs.
Yeah,
The question is, of course, how successful are they? Because some people say that it's not that easy to reverse engineer because it's totally unknown.
unknown. Yeah,
So, but it's outsourced to private outfits, right? So
yeah,
it's basically privatized so that you cannot access it to FOIA requests,
yeah,
and also you can throw a lot of money in a dark hole where nobody can look.
exactly.
There's no oversight, and basically it's run by these by a group of select people who know each other and who are sort of controlling the gatekeepers, so to speak, which are not really high people at all. It seems they're actually lower ranked people who have knowledge of this project, who can say who has access to it and who doesn't.
Yeah, and also a lot of the people make this argument that the cover up is going on from 1960s. How many people will be involved? I think very few people will be
Yeah,
involved,
I
and
think.
they are all the military people who are born to keep secrets. They don't let anyone in. Like even the people in the military, they not everyone can join that group. Very few selected people are in there, and since the beginning, those people who work in there, not since the beginning, but since 90s, people are coming out and telling their stories. So it means its cover up is not going well. So people are, that's how we know the stories. David Grush is not the first person. There are like list of, I don't know, a lot of military people who work in those like in these
But this,
secret projects have come out and blow the whistle.
but this is the first time that it has reached this level, right? The people
Exactly.
involved have the highest rank right now, and it has reached the highest level of U.S. Investigation ever, right before. And basically, with David Grush, who's not just anybody, he's like a really high-ranking official who actually briefed on a daily basis the White House, if I understood it correctly. But
Yeah.
you got the Inspector General of the intelligence community, who actually said that David Grush's story was credible and urgent and needed to be investigated. So that is like the Inspector General of the intelligence community, which is the highest ranking official within all of the intelligence communities, right? It's not just anybody. That's like, you cannot go higher than that.
Yeah. And David Crash is an amazing person because he is risking his reputation, because he was at the highest of the highest level, and he had like the highest security clearance. And a lot of people are just saying that he's giving a second-hand information, which is not completely true. It's like partially true, because what he's saying that he have seen those records as well, because he
Mhm.
had the clearance. So it's not just like he heard the stories from other people. He also has seen the evidence. That's why he's sure and went to the Congress and gave his testimony under
Yeah.
the. So it's
And
not just completely second-hand information. It's like partially second-hand.
true, and also about that issue, right? It's secondhand, but basically what that means, he talked to people who directly worked on it,
Yeah,
who have first-hand knowledge, who will
yeah.
probably also gonna testify next year or pretty soon.
I think he already gave the list of the names to the Congress. That's what he said that
Yeah,
I will. provide you the list and names and phone numbers right after the hearing.
And
So I
other
think he
members,
did, yeah.
other high-ranking officials already corroborated David Grush's story. So it's not just his story; it's actually also corroborated by other high officials, and he's under oath. So if he's lying about any of this, he will go to prison.
Yeah.
So and he still has this special access project clearance. So he still has a really high-ranking clearance. So and one of the things that you said earlier, right? One of the things when you sort of dive into this topic, it's which really surprised me is sort of the I'm not sure if it's the right word, but sort of the integrity of the army officials involved, because basically every sort of ranking official that has gone on the record to talk about this stuff, they take their it seems that they take their oath very seriously, right? That they don't want to say anything to break that oath. So they stay very within the allowed. Yeah.
So there are two things regarding that. First of all, even if they want to say something, most of the people said that in their end of their life. So they came out and they said, "What the worst you can do? Kill me now." So, but with them, it's not just the oath. I think they all like what I learned from Bob Lazar's story that they do carrot and stick approach where they blackmail people as well. Like threaten them that if you do this, something gonna happen. This is what David Grush said, that a lot of those people who have first-hand information who have actually recovered things, they are afraid to come out. It means it's not just the oath, it's just like they feel threatened and there's something more than just oath going on.
And basically, if they can't get you, they'll get your reputation, and then that is often enough. And one of the things with Roswell, you got this amazing book called The Children of Roswell, which is not basically about Roswell or the UFO, but it's basically about the people who were witnesses to the crash, who were there, when it happened, and were the first on the scene. And these people, they were harassed all their life by the army or intelligence community or whoever it is. It's very unclear who was doing the harassing, but basically their whole life was turned upside down after that event, and they have been threatened and harassed, and some people have even disappeared. And that's really strange if it was just a weather balloon, right? Why would you go through all that effort to harass people all their lives for seeing a crashed weather balloon?
Yeah, exactly. Also, one more thing, which is what people are asking, like, why now? Right now, it's coming out because this whistleblower protection thing is a recent thing. Before that, there was no protection. Now, this whistleblower protection is like policy is in place. They can come out and feel secure. This is what I was listening from Stephen Greer, that he said he have around 600 army officials who are under that protection right now, who have come out and gave their testimony.
Yeah, the whistleblower protection program, which was started, I think, in December last year, which is really good. I think it's really good that they did it. And then, of course, also this investigation by David Grush, which was also, task from Congress for him to do, was also like really good thing. And you had like many presidents. I mean, I think Bill Clinton, Obama, Bush, I'm not sure, probably not, and Trump. All these presidents basically sort of hinted at Hillary Clinton.
No.
That they wanted.
Bill Clinton was very much involved in that, and he wanted to uncover it. But then suddenly somebody threatened him, and which I think is through Epstein.
Yeah.
I think that's how they controlled him, and then suddenly he was silent, and then he left the topic. But in early stage of his presidency, or when he was running, he was very much inclined towards figuring out this UFO cover-ups. He was silent, and then when Bush came in, he didn't care about anything. He just wanted to go to war with Iraq. For some reason.
Yeah. And speaking about the war of Iraq, basically we all went in to Iraq because of WMDs, which turned out weren't there. But we went there, and I mean the Western world went into Iraq based on the testimony of turns out like one informant
Yeah.
who sort of suggested that there was something going on over there.
Yeah.
And basically, so the sort of the intelligence community was taken at their word, because the intelligence community never lies, right?
Yeah.
So, but right now we also have like a high-ranking intelligence agent who's telling us this story, which has a lot more weight to it. I mean, there's a lot more evidence for UFOs than there was for WMDs, and now everybody is saying like, "Nah, there's nothing there. This is, it's just one person."
There is a conspiracy regarding Iraq war. So first of all, you need to understand Bush was not a smart guy, so he didn't know. He just wanted to go to war. But the intelligence committee want to go there because they had like a real information that Saddam Hussein found the Stargates. That's a conspiracy. There is no proof of it, but I've heard those stories. And it is quite possible because the whole thing about Stargates connects us to the ancient civilizations of Sumerian and everything. So they had those kind of things. And somehow somebody told CIA, like their informant, that Saddam Hussein has found that out and he gonna use it. So it wasn't the oil they were after because they already had a good pact with Kuwait. They are set for life for at least 100 years.
Sure.
It wasn't the oil. So most of the people were saying that they went in there to get those artifacts.
Well, there was a lot of artifacts that were lost, right? I mean, it's a story that you don't hear often, but a lot of artifacts disappeared from the Middle East, and it was, the Middle East was one of the big locations of civilization.
Yeah, that's where the whole early civilizations were, right? All the Sumerians, Anunnaki, and all those things. And we are like 80% sure that Anunnakis were aliens.
Well,
Or
and in that light, we can also recommend Graham Hancock's Netflix series, which is wonderful, like really amazing work that he did. We talked about it last time, but basically it's about also the new civilization that was discovered in Turkey with Tepe. Göbekli Tepe. I always pronounce it wrong, so to all the Turkish viewers, sorry for my pronunciation, but which was discovered there, and there was a site next to it, actually a lot of sites next to it, but they also had Karahan Tepe, I think, that they're now digging, which was also in that series, and that sort of shows that our timeline is also completely wrong, like that.
Exactly, also the pyramids, because archaeologists were like so determined that these pyramids are 4,000 years old. And their biggest argument was, if they are not 4,000 years old, show us the proof of another civilization which is more than 4,000 years old, like, or 2,000 BC, 4,000 BC or something. But then they found Göbekli Tepe, which is like 11,000 years old. So now they have a proof. Now they have to change the story, or at least reconsider their opinion. Yeah, if there is other civilizations over there, it means which is tested to be very old, then pyramids can go back.
Yes, and of course, it was a highly advanced civilization. It was not just some hunter-gatherer civilization. It was a really high advanced.
We can't build pyramids right now with our technology. Forget that.
We build throwaway architecture that you can sort of demolish after a few years and build a new, like the economy. But there's also the Sphinx, right? And the Sphinx has a particular erosion, which is not horizontal but vertical. So because horizontal is from wind erosion, which you would expect, but actually the Sphinx, besides the head, of course, which is also a big story on its own, but you also have vertical erosion, which comes from rain, and there was no
floods,
rain.
not just rain, floods as well.
Yes, and then of course also the alignment, which Graham Hancock does a brilliant job in his
Well,
And
that's
it's,
amazing. Yeah, I think that's a very strong proof that it's connected to Leo constellation, and it set us with the timeline. I think that's a very good evidence. People, I don't know why they're not considering it, but I think that makes most sense. That okay, they built a lion, which is similar to Leo constellation.
yeah, so there's a direct connection to the stars because you also have
Yeah.
the Sirius. You got this African group who knew about a certain constellation without having any astronomical equipment, which is, it's not visible to the naked eye. I forgot the name of that civilization. But
Yeah,
the dog star was sort of discovered very early on in human history.
but also people need to understand astrology, which is these days you're predicting that future. That's bullshit. But I think astrology derived out of ancient astronomy.
Yeah.
People were doing that to find out the locations of the star, and then some people came in and they made up these uh, the predicting the future thing, which has nothing to do with the astrology. But astrology itself, if you go into that and read, it's very highly calculated methods of calculating the movement of the stars. So they knew that, and we know that astrology is very old.
True.
And I think it came out of the ancient astronomy.
Yeah, yeah. But there's another reason. So to talk about this, because you already hinted at, like, why now, right? And you mentioned the whistleblower program,
Yeah.
which is true. But why the whistleblower program? Why now? Why did they decide to do that now? What is your opinion? Why not
So,
years ago?
so no, yeah. The problem there are a few things. First of all, they cannot hold information anymore, so they have to do a slow release. And there are so if you go deep in the hole of conspiracies, they say there are two divisions in the CIA, not the CIA, but whatever the agency is, which is managing it, like in the Pentagon, that one group wants the disclosure. So they are leaking the information slowly and providing protection to these people who are coming out slowly, and they are giving a slow disclosure because there is a possibility that some aliens can be violent. And people don't realize because most of the people think the more educated you are or more knowledgeable you are, the more peaceful you are, but that's not true. In
Look at
1945,
us.
Nazis were the most intelligent people, but they are the most violent people who walked on this earth. So just imagine if in World War II, Nazi won and they destroyed the rest of the world, their knowledge will grow, but their ideology will grow as well. The same conquering ideology. Just imagine same thing happened in another planet where a guy like Hitler won and then he want to conquer everything, or he's super racist that he want to destroy all other races. So this is what he's gonna do if he finds out there are other planets. He will go and conquer them because that's what he did in his planet. So there is a possibility that there are violent like aliens out there who just want to conquer the world or
Yeah,
just become the emperor.
and I think we can also look at ourselves, right? Because supposedly we are very highly developed
Yeah.
and very cruel, right? I mean, the things that we're doing to each other at right this moment is, inhuman.
Yeah, so that's why I don't buy that. Like this theory that the more educated you are, the more peaceful you are. That's not true.
No,
In fact,
no.
the most educated people are the most violent people.
Yeah, well, I think violence is inside humanity itself. So I think we just use different tools
Yeah.
to exert it on others, right? So, yeah, but on the other hand, right? So if aliens are real and everything points in that direction, right? Because well, at least that's what I believe, and they're probably here. Then it probably also means that there's not just one alien,
Yeah,
right? I
exactly.
mean, it would be very weird if it's us and one alien species. No, I mean, so that means there's most likely a gazillion different types of aliens out there.
Yeah. To be honest, if there is one more we find uh, evidence of one civilization, it means there are multiple civilizations. We don't, even if we don't find it, but we can just see that okay, if the life developed on Earth and developed on another planet, it must have developed on many other worlds.
True. And if one
This
can,
is the,
and
yeah,
if one
no,
can reach us,
yeah. Then many can, and you know, if you look at people just discount religion, but if you look at religions, they're all talking about angels and demons, which are like they always come from the sky.
yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah.
like all of them are coming, and that also shows that there are good and bad aliens. Which like good ones are angels, bad ones are like demons.
Yeah, so that what you say, like in almost every religion, there's a battle, uh,
Yeah,
a cataclysm or an apocalypse, and there's good guys and bad guys, and they're in the sky duking it
yeah,
out, and we're often like we're onlookers, and often they also have vehicles that are sort of described with the knowledge back then, like circles and flaming wagons and in the sky and
yeah.
so and of course when you do religious research, which is one thing that I really like. When I did philosophy, I also did a lot of religious studies, is that most people don't take these stories literally, right? You got the whole division of theories that sort of explains why they used colorful language, and that they were sort of used concepts that to explain things that they didn't understand, and symbolism. And but one other explanation is, of course, that they try to describe what they saw, right? What something that
Yeah.
really happened.
Yeah, and one thing is like prophecies. So I've been doing research on all the prophecies of end times. All of them, like okay, so every religion have one savior, from Hinduism to Islam to Christianity
We
to
will come back.
yeah. We need to talk about that because every like God is saving good people in those things. And then I was doing big research on Gog and Magog. They are two races who will attack in the end of days. And that's the story of Jesus will connect. And in Hinduism, there is like Kalki. In Islam, there is Mahdi. And there are other people in all the religions that all are predicting a big battle in the end. And a really big battle. It's like God created this whole thing, and there is a big finale is about to happen. So
Yeah.
that's the whole thing, and I think aliens are tied to it. I think we will see a big battle eventually.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna use this episode as a sort of primer for a series. So this
Mhm.
episode was sort of to get people get their feet into the water, and hopefully they'll do their own research. I'll link it all down below. There's a lot of stuff you can watch, like really amazing interviews, but also a lot of credible witnesses and books that you can read on this topic.
Mhm.
And then we'll do another episode soon, and then we'll sort of go more into the why and sort of speculation on our part, what it all means and where it's going. And
Yeah,
let's do that. And yeah,
perfect.
I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of
Same
fun.
here.
And I think we're sort of thinking about these things very similarly, like many other people out there, right? There's a
Yeah,
lot of communities out there who are sort of into this topic. It's like Bitcoin, right? You go into this rabbit hole,
yeah,
and it keeps going and going and going. Um, but I think people will find out, once they sort of get adjusted or acclimatized to this topic, that I think there is a link between everything that's happening
yeah,
and this topic. I think it's basically at the center of it.
yeah. And also, before we end, I just want to say, on my psychedelic trip, I've seen a big war in the end. You
Wow.
know, I have experiences, a lot of experience. One of them was like I saw the future. There was a war. I didn't see it who were fighting, but I saw big destruction. That was one of my visions from my psychedelic trip. We'll talk about that some in some other episode.
Oh yeah, I mean, it touches on all areas, like from psychedelic to AI to the economy to Bitcoin. I think we can do a whole series on this, and maybe other people who are listening who want to join this conversation, who have their own views or ideas on it, throw me a DM, and the more the merrier, and the more views the better.
Exactly.
So, Sydart, I want to thank you for your time. I had a lot of fun, and let's do this again real soon.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I also had so much fun. Have fun.
Okay, take care, everybody.
Bye.